What's up, everybody? This week on PopCast, we're going to be reviewing Jupiter Ascending.
Also, we'll be reviewing John Carpenter's In the Mouth of Madness.
And we'll be giving our weekly recommendations.
Welcome to PopCast. I'm Matt.
Mike.
And Dan.
Jupiter Ascending is the new sci-fi thriller from the Wachowskis. Now, before we talk about it, here's a clip.
You're the perfect hunting machine. Fearless. Relentless. You've been searching for one thing your whole life. And she's down there.
Make sure this is the right one.
It's her.
Good. Kill her.
Who are you?
I'm here to help you. Your Majesty, Kane was the best soldier I ever went into battle with.
If she's what you say she is, we're not getting off this planet without a fight.
Your Earth is a very small part of a very large industry.
I feel I have you at somewhat of a disadvantage.
Is that because you kidnapped me?
Some lives will always matter more than others.
Mike, what did you think?
Alright, so I kind of found this movie to be more of a mess than a masterpiece. It has some great world building elements to it, great sci-fi elements, great just combination of a bunch of different sci-fi films, but as a whole the narrative just fell flat. The characters are pretty one-dimensional, and it's just a mess of a film.
Yeah, this movie's definitely not a masterpiece, and it's definitely not on the level of even something like Cloud Atlas, which was also kind of a mess. But I actually found myself more on the positive end of the film. I definitely have a soft spot for the Wachowskis. I just think something about their kind of filmmaking is their point of view is very humanist and very kind of, they have a very positive view of the world, which I think we don't see in a lot of blockbusters, and I think that's kind of what saves the day here, is that optimism. And I think even though the movie's a mess, there's kind of a wide-eyed enthusiasm to whatever thing they commit to, at least in the moment. So even though it's messy, I found it entertaining just watching where they would go with whatever tangent they were on.
Yeah, I don't think this film goes far enough in its campiness. Yeah. I think this film is a mess for sure, and not in a good way. It's not one of those great messes where it's a good Friday night movie you can sit down with your friends and have a beer and laugh at it. It takes itself a little bit too seriously for my taste. I think they really just overextend themselves on the plot and really forget about characters, and really what make a movie fun is to have a good time with people that you want to hang out with and people that you want to be going through space with. And this movie should be more fun than it really is. And I really just think it reduces a lot of its characters to kind of just one note. They don't even get... A lot of these ensembles, usually the characters get a lot of moments, and you get a lot of the kernels of what really made them a great character, but you don't really get that in this film.
Yeah, I kind of feel that they put so much effort into creating this world. And again, I want to emphasize, I really liked the look of this film. I liked the designs, but I wish they put just as much fun into the narrative, into having fun with the narrative, watching this movie, having fun, laughing, characters that have, these personality, yeah.
No, yeah, and it definitely feels like just this movie's trying to juggle way too much, and it definitely feels like in the screenwriting, a lot of the ideas haven't been fleshed out fully. Like, there's this whole, this movie kind of wants to be a critique on the 1%. It wants to be like a sci-fi film. It wants to be a love story. But within all that, it kind of completely loses its characters. And even though, they casted very charismatic actors, none of these characters are very memorable, and I like the movie, but I can't really say, there's no Neo here, there's no one from Cloud Atlas even on the same level in terms of just...
It's hard to do what they did in making these actors as not as charismatic as they should be. It's hard to make Channing Tatum not a charismatic guy.
Or Eddie Redmayne.
It's hard to make yeah, it's hard to make Sean Bean not a charismatic guy, and it's hard to make me kind of not even root for Mila Kunis, and they managed to do that in this movie. Mm-hmm. But he brought up Eddie Redmayne, what I think is the best part of this movie, and I think he's hamming it up to a degree that nobody else is, so it makes him stick out like a sore thumb, but I still had fun with it.
See, but even then, I wish he would have hammed it up even more.
Yeah, it's not quite enough. I didn't enjoy Eddie Redmayne. I feel that it was a campy performance, but it wasn't enough. It was just enough to remind me why I wasn't enjoying this film.
Also, I feel like we may disagree on this, but they designated the Mila Kunis character to just a damsel in distress the entire time. In my opinion, it felt just super repetitive. And, I mean, for a great actor as she is, I think she is a little controversial in her talent. Like, some people don't think she's as talented as many other people do, but I think she's talented. And I think they kind of wasted her.
I agree in the sense that I think the way the movie uses the Channing Tatum and Mila Kunis relationship is just kind of awkward. But I do think this movie is trying to do a lot with the Mila Kunis character in terms of, I mean, it even makes reference to, like, comparing her to the Cinderella figure. The movie kind of has this Cinderella arc, except it kind of wants to turn it on its head a little bit. I don't think it's quite successful, but I think there's something admirable and ambitious that, you know, a $100 million blockbuster is basically saying, you know, is anti-consumerist in nature. At least that's what the movie's trying to rest its final theme on.
Yeah, I think as far as the talent goes, it's where the problem lies is mostly the script. I don't think, you know, we can really judge Mila Kunis based on her talent just from watching this movie.
She's not giving much.
She's not giving much. Channing Tatum is giving nothing.
And Channing, why not let him be funny? There's not many laughs in this movie.
There's no laughs.
There should be a lot of laughs in this movie. There should be an Avengers type, snappy, fun action.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
It should have been a Guardians. It should have been more akin to Guardians of the Galaxy.
The Fifth Element. The Fifth Element's a great, fun, sci-fi, campy movie that has a lot of laughs, has, you know, interesting characters, and, you know, I was kind of hoping going into this that this would be, you know, this decade's Fifth Element, and it just
it ended up being this decade's the Star Wars prequels. It reminded me so much of those because it's so joyless, but so colorful. It has the aesthetic of a really, really great movie, and the world of a really great film, but it's just joyless. It sucks everything out of it. So overall, what do we think of this movie?
So I give this movie a C. I feel that the universe is fantastic, and I'd be happy to revisit it. But, you know, dull characters and a fairly incoherent plot just bogs it down.
I give this movie a B- because even though it's flawed, I think it has a lot of compelling ideas. And I think the Wachowskis are kind of the rare blockbuster filmmakers that have a lot of heart with their films. I think I'd like to support them wherever I can. Because I feel there should be more filmmakers like them.
Yeah, they definitely swing for the fences.
Yeah,
there is ambition in all their films. If you can't fault this film for having ambition, which is probably a plus, but also a little over ambition. I'm gonna give this movie a D+. I just think the overextension of the plot and the reduction of a lot of the characters and the joyless of the visuals for me didn't really land. So I'm gonna give it a D+. I didn't really have that great of a time, and I had pretty high expectations. So. Yeah, so that was our review of Jupiter Ascending, and we'll be right back with a review of In the Mouth of Madness, John Carpenter's 1995 horror flick. In the Mouth of Madness is John Carpenter's 1995 film starring Sam Neill. Here's a clip.
You're absolutely mad.
The riots began because the stores could not meet the demands of Sutter Kane's novel, In the Mouth of Madness.
Kane disappeared 2 months ago without a trace.
You're the guy that writes horror books.
You can forget about Stephen King. Kane outsells them all.
I need to know if he's alive or dead, and I need that book.
This book will drive people crazy.
I just hope so. The movie comes out next month.
All right, Daniel, what do you think of this movie?
I think the best way to describe this movie would just be as meta, and I think the whole movie's just kind of this really long extended joke, and it's walking this really fine line of either being really good or really bad, but I think it pulls it off in the end just because the whole movie is so tongue-in-cheek, and it really, even though I saw the ending coming, it didn't annoy me in a way because it plants it so well.
Yeah, for me, if I had one word to describe this, it's loony. This is just a crazy, bizarre movie. It was the first time I had ever seen it, and I'm not a big horror movie guy, but The Thing is probably one of my favorite horror movies. And this is a spiritual follow-up to The Thing. It reminds me how effective and great practical effects are.
Yes.
And John Carpenter knows how to design and create monsters unlike any other filmmaker, and just really appreciating some of that finer filmmaking that we don't often get in horror movies today. It's just one of those, reminds me, and really I got to appreciate it for the first time, and I was happy to watch it.
Yeah. This movie does a lot, does what great satire does, is it pays tribute while also skewering, while also pointing out and making fun of, but also making what they're making fun of, they're making a really great version of it. And John Carpenter is doing that in spades here. I think he's making a really, really great, like you said, spiritual following to The Thing. This is not like Big Trouble in Little China, John Carpenter, because there's a lot of restraint in this film. He holds back a lot. There's a lot of practical effects, but he's also showing you flashes. He's not. There's no restraint in Big Trouble in Little China. You could argue, but that's what's so great about that film. But it wouldn't work for this movie. And I really think, and also Sam Neill is really good. Do you have anything to say about Sam Neill?
I mean, yeah, he's really good in the film, and I think what you brought up, I mean, it's almost like an ultimate parody of like a Twilight Zone episode. In terms of just like the structure of it, so well done. I think what you brought up is just the amount of craft that's seen on this movie. We got so many kind of run-of-the-mill horror movies. And I mean, I'm not that well-versed in the genre, but stuff like Paranormal Activity and stuff like that. And what a movie like this really reminds you of is like the craft. Like the editing is so sharp and on point. Like the timing is so crucial to this film. And something that reminded me, I'm a huge Edgar Wright fan, and he's listed John Carpenter as like one of his major influences. And watching this film, I could totally get it in terms of just like just the way it's so having so much fun, kind of gently making fun of like genre conventions and tropes. Like it's in this movie's DNA.
This has to be Edgar Wright's favorite John Carpenter film. It has to be. Like, it is so... I mean, all of Edgar Wright's films are so reminiscent of this movie.
So I like how you brought up that it's, has elements of other different films and adaptations, and being, the best of that. Because that's what this is. This is a really good Stephen King film. It's not based on any Stephen King novel, but it would be a great Stephen King, H.P. Lovecraft, and even his own... this is John Carpenter doing... great John Carpenter movie, and that's something that you get to appreciate just watching and enjoying.
Not only is it extremely entertaining and extremely homage-y, there's a lot of little Easter eggs that you can find throughout this film, but it's also just really effective in what it's trying to do. The scares are there, the acting is there. The filmmaking is just, the craft of it is totally there, and also it's very vibrant and very colorful for a horror film. I think everything about this film is just a classic, and I think it was underrated at the time it came out. It got buried, obviously, and got buried in February, like all these films do. Yeah. So, what do we think overall?
I mean, I'd give it an A-. I mean, it's definitely in that top tier. It's a really fun, just genre flick. I think if you're just looking for a fun time, just check it out.
Yeah, I give the movie an A. It's a follow-up to The Thing. If you like The Thing, this is a fantastic movie to watch.
If you like John Carpenter, if you like genre films, if you like 80s movies, this is a 90s movie that belongs in the 80s. I'd give this an A+ for sure. So stick around. We're going to be doing our weekly recommendations, and then we're going to be ending our show. All right, now let's get to our weekly recommendations. Dan, I'm going to make you go first, actually.
I watched Jackie Brown this week. The Quentin Tarantino film.
Yes.
I hadn't seen it in a while. I really enjoyed it. It's a ton of fun. I think it's kind of an interesting film in his filmography just because it's an Elmer Leonard adaptation. So it's actually a lot more subtle and kind of... he feels like he's almost taking a step back for the source material, which is nice in a lot of ways. I mean, it's typical Tarantino. Great performances. Pam Grier, Robert Forster, Samuel L. Jackson.
Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton,
Yeah, and like you said, you kind of forget it's a Quentin Tarantino movie. It's one of those that really gets buried under all his other films.
Yeah, and I feel people...
it's much more understated than his other films.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I feel it's gotten neglected somewhat in terms of, like, compared to his other films just because it is more subdued. But, I mean, it's really the kind of film, like all his movies, where you can just, like, sit back, listen to the conversations, and it's so entertaining.
Look at Pam right there. What a cutie.
Yeah.
I mean, can you get more good-looking than Pam Grier? Is that even possible?
No.
I don't even think so. Mike, what are you up to?
All right, so my recommendation is sort of a preemptive recommendation because it hasn't aired yet, but it's Better Call Saul on Sunday for AMC. You know, I wasn't too sure if I wanted to see a prequel to Breaking Bad or just revisiting that world. I was kind of worried about the idea of
I think everybody was.
Yeah, but I'm won over. I can't wait to see it. Vince Gilligan, I met him at the airport. He told me it's going to be fantastic. So that's
I
my
mean,
recommendation.
the positive reviews have been really nice to hear.
I hope you're
because
credited in the end.
I hope so.
Credits.
I hope he hears this and he's like, "Oh yeah, I remember seeing that guy."
At the end, it's dedicated to Mike.
Yeah.
He was well dressed.
I did kind of stalk him though, so hopefully he doesn't.
Didn't.
No, I'm telling you, I did.
Oh, shit.
I followed him.
Damn it. Well,
that probably happens to him more than.
Yeah.
He's Vince Gilligan.
Yeah. All right. So my recommendation is just the oh my god, I said late night. The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. This whole week they were in LA this entire week, and they kind of pulled out all the stops. They've done all their classic bits in just 1 week, and it's amazing. And just for a Jimmy Fallon fan, it's just Christmas. And they did the lip syncing, they did photo bombs, they did quartets, they did word sneak, they
Saved by the Bell.
They did kid theater with Michael Keaton. Saved by the Bell, the big one that I need to talk about that. That was the best.
Saved by the Bell, that was fantastic. It was I got to see Kelly Kapowski again.
Yeah,
who would complain about that?
She's the best.
She is the best, and she still looks the best.
All of them look great. Except for
Belding. Someone ate Belding.
Yeah.
Also, John Oliver's coming back this Sunday.
Yes!
Oh, preemptive.
How exciting is that?
Yeah.
I'm super excited for that. Yeah, so those are our weekly recommendations. Check out Jackie Brown. Check out Better Call Saul when it comes out this Sunday. So you probably would have been... This is going out Monday, so then you can... Yeah,
so it's not
preemptive. Tell us how it is. And then also, I mean, Jimmy Fallon's on every night, so you should probably just get on the bandwagon and start watching. All right, so I'm Matt.
Mike.
Daniel.
Thanks for watching PopCast. We'll be back next week. Follow us on Twitter at PopCast DePaul, and check out our radio show at radio.depaul.edu, 7 o'clock on Friday. All right? Good show.